Nick from Harvest Profit here. Hope all is well. Hey, just going to walk through some analysis on uh, looking at different rotations, and specifically, we're going to be looking at comparing a scenario where we have where we plant our anticipated rotation, and then a scenario where we take a couple fields and we take prevented planting on a couple of our corn fields. And so what I'm going to do here, here's my profit and loss projected for my 2019 crop. So we're going to pretend that we're looking at here are two fields, the east quarter and the home field, and I allocated prevent plant pay. I calculated what my prevent plant payments would be on these two fields. Obviously, this math is different for every farm, so don't dive too much into the numbers. But what I want to share with you today is the thought process of how to do this analysis. So if I go back to my P&L, we're going to hop over to the applications tab. And so here's our two fields that we're thinking about taking prevented planting on. I had projected 175 bushels here. Let's just assume that it's a later spring. So I'm going to knock these down to 165 bushels. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over back to my profit and loss. It's going to recalculate. Give it 1 second. So we're going to reload that. Here's the updated profit and loss. And so I'm going to export this as a PDF. So here we have this to look back at. And so I'm going to go back. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a new crop called prevented planting. So if we go to our settings here, I'm going to add a new crop. I'm just going to call it PP. We create that crop. And then I'm going to give that a price of $1. I'm just going to call it $1. So we save that. Now we're going to go back to our applications tab. This is where we set our per field rates for seed, fertilizer, and chemical. I'm going to first check my inputs here. I'm going to add PP to my urea. So going back to the applications, I got to change the crops first. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. So the east quarter is now PP. The home section is now PP. We save that crop plan. We go back to the applications tab. I am going to delete all the seed, all the chemical, and what I'm going to leave in there for fertility is I'm going to leave 100 pounds of urea. So I'm going to assume that we're going to lose 100 pounds of urea if we make this decision. So I save that. I'm going to do the same thing on my home, deleting chemicals, deleting seed. I'm just going to leave us with 100 pounds of urea. So I'm going to save that. So now if we go back to we have our yields here on our PP. So what we're going to end up doing is, if you remember, I put the PP in at $1 per unit as the price. Because we want to do this on a per field basis, the east quarter is 303, the home is 313. So the east quarter, 303, the home quarter is 313. So that's going to equal out to what our total yield would be. I actually have to change this to the total per field instead of just having it per acre. No, never mind. It actually is per acre. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here. That would be a terrible prevent plant payment. Well, I got to do this again. 303, 313. So there we go, save them per acre. And then if I go back to my inputs tab, if we're going to move that to prevent plant, what are we going to do? We're going to have to set a fuel setting here for prevent plant. It defaults to 7 gallons per acre. Let's just call that 2 gallons per acre. So we have that accurately figured in. Our labor is the same, but let's just knock $15,000 off of our repair bill. So we save that. So that's really all we have to come back and adjust if we decide not to do that, is adjust our repairs. So now if we go back to our P&L, we can now see that we have, this is our bottom line. So we adjusted for the prevent plant. We have that flowing through. Here's the revenue. It's taken into account our land cost, and it's taken into account all of our overhead that is assigned to those fields on a per acre basis. So we're going to hop over to first we're going to export the PDF. I'm just doing this ad hoc. I haven't practiced at all. I just wanted to jump into this video and see how good we could do this analysis. So we're going to pull up our first P&L, our second P&L, and so this is for the scenario of no prevent plant. If you remember, we took the yield here from 175 per bushel down to 165 to account for a late spring, maybe suboptimal planting conditions. And then if you look at here, this is with the prevent plant. So we're looking at about a $18,000 difference between those two. And if we go back to our P&L by crop, we have 817 acres. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up some more analysis here. So we have an $18,000 difference. What's that? 817 acres. 817 acres that we're deciding between. So we have 817 acres. And we're going to assume our cash price for corn is $3.50. And so here's our dollars per acre, the difference between the two. And if we take the $22 divided by 350 corn, we have 6 bushels per acre. So our original yield, sorry, I'm kind of spelling Nazi. Original yield, adjusted yield, and break-even yield. So our original yield was 175 bushels, our adjusted yield was 165 bushels, and our break-even yield is 165 bushels minus 6.29 bushels. So here's what this math tells us. If we feel that we have a reasonable shot of getting above 158.7 bushel yield versus our original goal, we should be planting this field. We should go ahead and not prevent plant and plant the field. And the next step of the analysis would be to switch from corn to soybeans and do the same logic that we did here, but just plant the additional crop. Or whatever crops are in your rotation, you can switch between those two crops to do this scenario analysis. So for one, harvest profit, I think we spent maybe 10-12 minutes here, and I really just did this ad hoc. I haven't practiced this. I obviously know the program pretty good, but really powerful tool to understand the impact of your overhead. That is what is the most important piece of analysis here, is what is your farm's current payment obligations from both a land cost standpoint, an equipment standpoint, overhead. You're going to be able to minimize a certain number of your expenses when you decide not to plant a crop and do prevented planting. But a lot of those expenses are going to stick with you. So at the end of the day, if our decision here is corn versus prevent plant from strictly a numbers standpoint, if we feel that we have a reasonable shot at getting above 158.7 bushel yield for this specific farm, and every farm is different, we're going to go ahead and plant the corn. And it also depends on, where's your APH. There's a ton of different scenarios, but this is the kind of powerful numbers-based analysis that can take decisions away from gut feel and more towards objective manufacturing, like professional farm management decisions is really what we're all about at Harvest Profit. And if you notice here, I'm using a spreadsheet to use in coordination with our software. So this isn't just a magical process where some magical tool is going to come in and save the day. And that's not what Harvest Profit does. Harvest Profit enables you to do this analysis a little bit easier. So with that, I wanted to just help provide a different line of thought, some different opinions or perspectives on how your farm can make these numbers-based decisions. So have a wonderful day, and we'd love to work with you. And if there's anything we can do for you, feel free to reach out anytime. You can go to harvestprofit.com/call to set up a call, either with our support team or with our sales team. You can email me personally, nick@harvestprofit.com. You can email our customer support@harvestprofit.com. At the end of the day, we really live and breathe helping you make better decisions on your farm. And if we're not working with you, we'd love to. Have a wonderful day.